Okay, consider this. Do you have control over your thoughts? Or does your mind control you? Do you have any resources that come to mind which allow you to stop yourself from overthinking? Perhaps you experience anxiety or stress, maybe overthinking, or at times depression. Well, let me share some insights with you. Okay, over the years, I've worked with so many different people as a mental health practitioner, and I've worked with people who suffer anxiety, people that are overly stressed. I've worked with people who've experienced depression, and I've even worked with people who have suffered and experienced post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, through all of the people that I've worked with, I've seen common patterns with the way that people think and with the way that their minds are working. And it's through these patterns where I decided, from my experience and from the findings that I was getting with people, that I wanted to show as many people as I could reach just what you could do with your mind. Because a lot of the patterns that I was seeing, they were repetitive. And I was doing, in some ways, a lot of similar interventions with people to help them on a mental and emotional level to feel better. So what exactly did I notice? What was the pattern? What was the thing that kept showing up for me over and over again? Well, firstly, people seem to think that they have an issue which is going on inside themselves. Let's say, for example, anxiety, and they don't know how to communicate it. They don't know how to verbalize and say what it is they're experiencing, but they just know that something's playing over on their mind and it's causing them to feel in a very uncomfortable way, which is overpowering, and to a degree, it's controlling them from living the way that they want to live. This can get stronger. It can affect the way that they show up in life, the things that they do, their social interactions, their relationships. And what was happening was a lot of people were coming to see me and they were saying, I think there's something wrong with me, because they couldn't verbalize, they couldn't communicate what it was they were experiencing. I think something's happening to me and I don't know how to explain it and I don't know how to control it. And it was in that realization where I saw that a lot of people think that it's only happening to them and that there's something wrong with them. So there's this sense of disappointment, there's perhaps elements of shame, and it's actually in working with the person and educating them, informing them that lots of people experience anxiety, that you're not alone in this challenge, and actually that a lot of people that experience anxiety or stress or depression, they tend to be doing it in a similar way in their mind in terms of how their mind and thought patterns are structured, but it becomes more personal for their experience that they're having. They didn't know how to fully describe what was going on, but they thought that there was something wrong with them. They thought they were individual, and it's something like their minds got wrong and they didn't know how to correct it. The second thing, which was a common pattern, was that people didn't seem to have an awareness of what they could do with their mind. And what do I mean by that? Well, what can you do with your mind that allows you to think better, that allows you to feel better? How can you use your mind to empower you to change how you feel very quickly? Do you know how? So this was another pattern that I was seeing with people. People weren't aware of the very many ways that they could use their mind to think in ways that empowered them, to think in ways that served them much better than having those overactive, negative, anxious, depressive thoughts that was causing them to feel low. And so it was in these findings of doing similar interventions and seeing that a lot of people didn't know how they could use their mind that I put together my findings and expressed them in my first book, Your Mind is Your Home. So what is this all about? Your mind is your home. How to end anxiety, stop overthinking, and how to have more control over your thoughts. Well, let me just share some insights, because it was putting this work together, working on writing this book, which really made me think about how people use their mind. And it kept taking me back to that awareness that I felt people didn't know how their thoughts were being set up, how they were structured, and most importantly, how they could make changes. So what you generally have is you have people, or you may experience this yourself, where you've got your mind that's overworking, you've got your mind that's running its own thought patterns, and it's taking you down certain pathways of thoughts. It's taking you to feel in particular uncomfortable ways. And you might not feel that you have any control over it. Well, you actually have more control than you think. You actually have more power than you may realize to make changes to the way that you're thinking. And in the whole first section, part 1, which is actually called the news feed of your mind, I've made this book very modern. I've linked it to a lot of the actions that you'll be doing on a day-to-day basis on your social media devices, on your technological devices. And the newsfeed of your mind is all about the setup, the structure of your mind. I start firstly by talking about my own anxiety and how I had this inner voice going through my head, which was causing me to feel anxious with the way that it was talking to me, the things it was saying, the tone it was communicating in. And then I talk about the thoughts that I could see in my head and the scenes, the scenarios, the mini movies that I was watching in my head of the worst case scenario happening, which was making me feel anxious. Now, you could probably relate to that, the internal chatter that you may have, the thoughts that you may see, and maybe the scenes and scenarios that play through your own mind. I continue with highlighting the point that you are going to be friends for life with your mind. That is the person, that is the part of you that goes everywhere with you. You wake up with your mind, you go to bed with your mind. Only you know the thoughts that you're thinking. Only you really experience that internal, private, personal world. So it's really important to not have your mind as an enemy, to not let it bully you, to not let it control you. And this is all about forming a relationship with your mind so that you can get along, so that you can actually take positive control, so that you can actually calm and communicate to that anxious voice, that voice of worry, all those thoughts that make you feel panicked. And it takes you through a process of looking at your mind and looking at what you're consuming. Okay, so whether you're watching Netflix or Prime or YouTube, how much are you watching? How much are you consuming? What about in your mind? What about in that Mindflix account where you've got box set after box set, season after season of your life that you keep watching over and over, all the things that happened in the past, what he did, what she didn't do, what they said. Or perhaps you're ahead, time traveling in the future, thinking of all of the things that could happen, all the worst case scenarios. So if you get to a point where you can understand what your mind is doing, and if you can use your awareness to see how you might be binge watching those things over and over again, you can get to a point as the book progresses where you can take action and control. As a coach, I'm always using questions, questioning individuals that I'm working with so that they can go inside, so that they can go into their map, their model of the world, because I don't need to know all of their details of their experiences. They know their map. They know what's happening in their world. I want them to search within to get the answers. So consider these questions. The book has loads of questions so that you can really reflect on how your mind is working. Okay, what does your mind appear like to you in terms of the environment? Would you say your thoughts are tidy? Would you say your thoughts are quite cluttered and overwhelming? Is it loud inside your mind? Is it noisy? What's the environment like? Where are you in your mind? Do you go to the past with your thinking? Are you in the present moment, or are you heading off into the future? Do you often think back to the good times that you've had? Or perhaps it's only the more challenging times. Do you have a positive inner voice within that reflects on the good that's in your life? Do you often tell yourself that you are of great value to this world? So just think about those questions. What happens to your phone, your tablet, your device if you've got too many tabs open? What happens to the battery? Right? It drains down quickly. If you've got too many tabs open, too many screens operating lots of different things, well, what happens to your mind with all of those tabs, those thoughts of your friends, your relationships, your work, your past? What happens if you've got all of those tabs open in your mind? You end up draining your mental and emotional battery. And the whole how-to of this book, the how-to, shows you how you can close those tabs, how you can deal with those thoughts that pop up from the past, how you can work with those internal sounds, how you can change how someone appears inside your head so that it doesn't dominate you. How would that be for you to have that control? Because the whole how-to section is teaching you to take control of your mind by literally putting the remote control, the operating system, the touch screen in your hands. And so that you can get to a point, that you can get to a place where you can realize that the power lies within you to make the changes that you need. Now, all of the interventions of the how-to section are very modern. They relate to the actions that you take on a daily basis unconsciously as you swipe, block, filter, edit, mute, all of those things that you do on your phone. But now, instead of looking at the screen that you hold in your hand, the focus is looking at the screen inside your mind. Make an important point that the work that's on offer in the book is a guideline. It's not necessarily all the work that I do in personal sessions, because when I'm working personally with an individual, I will work deeper on the emotional challenges, and I can offer fast releases through lots of different techniques that I use. I've written this in a modern, relatable way that you will understand. So don't think this is everything that I do. This is fast interventions that give you the control, and quickly. Now, as well as increasing your awareness, as well as showing you how to have more control over your mind, because those were the patterns of things that I was seeing that people were struggling with, the whole last section is how to then train and reprogram your mind so that you can think more positively, so that you can have more control over the way that your mind is thinking. Because it's one thing taking action and stopping a pattern and intervening on a cycle of thoughts, taking and having that intervention, but you've then got to know what to do. And that leads you to then work on a daily basis on using skills, using tools where you work on those positive inner voices, where you work on those scenes that play in your head that are more empowering, that don't fill you with fear and don't fill you with anxiety. So there's also lots of tools and resources that show you how to stop your mind from taking control of you, but it gives you the option so that you can take your power and control yourself. I think one of the first messages I got from someone who'd read the book had said, I haven't been out of the house for months, and you've shown me just how I can take control of my mind, how I can actually take action, and how I can use my mind so that it empowers me. And I've started to venture out of the house. That was pretty mind-blowing for me, because I put the tools and resources together in the book to show you, to show people all of the things that you can do. And it's wonderful to hear people taking action. So if you want some help and assistance, if you want tools and resources to take action, and if you want ways to change the patterns of thinking that you're experiencing, Your Mind is Your Home is available worldwide on Amazon. I'll see you in the next video.